involves more base. Central Bank of Nigeria reschedules monetary policy meeting for 16th and 17th September 2021. Plus, oil gains for second session on lower U.S. output. Details of this and more on Business Express, and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. The Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy has been given the go-ahead to begin the immediate deployment of the fifth generation network across Nigeria. This followed the approval of a national policy on 5G networks for Nigeria's digital economy by the Federal Executive Council. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Isa Ali Pantami, announced this while briefing journalists after the council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
In a simple language, we can say it will open many opportunities economically, academically, educationally, and even in health sector. And it will also support our security institutions, particularly in areas where they need high quality services.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service has continued to evolve ways of widening the nation's revenue base. This is recorded success with the deployment of technology. Management of the service disclosed this in Abuja while interacting with the media. The FIRS also insists it is empowered by law to collect value-added tax on behalf of the federal, states, and local governments. With eyes on the target of raising a projected 10.1 trillion naira revenue in 2022, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has continued to evolve various means of expanding its tax net. The most recent is the deployment of technology through the Tax Pro Max solution.
We've been able to achieve an end-to-end processing on the life cycle of that taxpayer from the time the taxpayer registers and up on the time they pay their tax liability.
On collection of value-added tax, the FIRS, citing VAT Decree No. 102 of 1993, which later became an act of the National Assembly, the service is empowered by law to collect tax on behalf of the Federation.
In actual effect, 85% of VAT collected goes to states and local governments, while only 15% goes to the federal government.
The FIRS says VAT collected at the port of entry, at the seaports, from goods and services, as well as VAT paid from contracts for supplies and construction, among others, are shared to the three tiers of government, with 35% going to local governments, 50% to the states, and 15% to the federal government. In Abuja, Benny. Talking tax matters, news broke out this week that the FIRS is currently seeking the approval of the National Assembly to further amend the Finance Act to impose tax for online businesses on social media. The FIRS has refuted the news, saying the agency has no plans to tax social media businesses. Today on Business Express, we will still be looking at the possibility of including such tax in the Finance Act. Our guest is an economist to the Tope Fasua, who joins us virtually. Mr. Fasua, welcome to Business Express.
Good morning, and thanks for inviting me.
Okay, let's talk about the possibility of including social media businesses in the tax net. Do you think that is feasible?
Well, it depends on what social media businesses you have in mind. What I know that has become global best practice is the fact that the big businesses that are, internet based, like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and co. Which do business around the world, but only pay their taxes in the United States, especially because most of them are coming out of the US, being taxed by every other country today, especially countries that are serious with their affairs, because these companies sell all around the world, and so whatever it is you can get, you get from them. Equally, United States of America has since put in a law in place, to the extent that any United States company or individual that makes money from anywhere outside the United States is bound to pay taxes to the United States, wherever it is you may have made your money. And so every country is waking up. But if we're talking about small companies that do business on social media, I think you need to get it right. I'm not sure that's the target. There are many small companies who make 20,000 naira on social media. I'm not sure that's what the government has in mind. I think the focus is on the large behemoths, the massive companies that do businesses around the world.
Yes, talking about the target, sure, smaller businesses should not be in our own thinking. But as a social media user, you get to see these pop ups that advertise big multinational companies. Don't you think those ones should be the target?
Absolutely should be the target. Note that the same Finance Act that you mentioned earlier, has some very generous provisions for small businesses. Businesses that make 25 million naira and below as turnover every year, entitled to zero taxes, which is, I think, a very positive development, and a good thing for small businesses, that if you are not making 2 million naira turnover every month, the government doesn't need any tax from you. And that's the way to go, especially in this season where businesses are crawling and really struggling. But it's all of those pop-ups you see, advertisements from different places. You see, there's a lot of trickery involved in all of these things. They're going to market, you, and say, oh, come on our platform, pay money to Facebook, do adverts. We're going to reach 10 million people for you on Twitter. Twitter is particularly very notorious for that. I've done several adverts on Twitter. I've never really seen the bang for the buck. Facebook is a little bit better in my view. But all of this, they take so much money from people around the world. And every click, sometimes they charge money for every click that you make. So you see, we have actually turned a lot of data to these companies. We're begging them to take our data. And then they now sell the data back to us. For every data you add, for everything you click, all of this is data which have then sold on to other people. The real business is data. Okay, so the point now is, okay, fine. Whereas we cannot stop them doing this data business and making their money, and with the reach that they have all around the world, and the fact that they are the cutting edge of technology. But I think a smart country will think about, okay, what can we claw back? Okay, what can we claw back from some of these guys? So the focus should be on the large companies, in my view.
Well, that is to say there is no cause for worry. I'm coming from the fact that when the news broke out talking about a review of the 2020 Finance Act, more like an amendment, people were apprehensive. Are they going to come after us or what? But from your explanation, are you saying
No,
there's no cause for worry,
yes.
particularly for small businesses?
Well, first of all, they are all covered. 2 million. You see, when Twitter was banned in Nigeria, I saw quite a lot of reviews online and people complaining and saying that, hey, the government is taking our business and all of that. And then they start. A lot of them were saying, oh, they make 24,000 naira in a week. Some said 30,000 naira a month. Look, the government doesn't have business with those people. They are covered by the Finance Act. 25. If you're not making 2 million turnover a month, even as a properly established business, you are not obligated to pay taxes to government. Okay. And again, what is even tax? Tax is actually what government takes after you may have made profit. If you are not making profit, you don't owe government any taxes. So we should actually get out of the mode, and I think that's the reason. That's what the media should do. Please, Nigerians, to get out of all that panic mode, always opposing everything from government, taking on a kind of role of antagonism with government, suspecting that they want to rip you off. Because in time, the crop of leaders will go, others will come, but would have established a toxic relationship between the followers and the leaders, and we would actually just be on one spot digging the hole that we're in. So there's no reason why anyone doing a small business online, selling, tiger nuts on social media, whatever, should worry that government wants to come after them for when they have actually been protected by the same finance act that actually gives a lot of leeway for small and medium scale enterprises to breathe and do some businesses so that people can survive.
Okay, Mr. Faswa, it would now seem that the federal government is trying to get all the revenue it can possibly get to fund a budget that is running into some sort of deficit. Would you say the best way is the tax way? And what other ways do you think government should look out for aside widening this tax base we're talking about?
Yeah, it's very important. Nigeria has one of the lowest tax compliance rates in the world, and in fact, the lowest tax to revenue ratio, 6%. Okay, when even countries in Africa, Ghana, there has set about 25%. We're even the lowest in Africa, meaning that we're probably the lowest in the world. Even Arabic countries who never used to take taxes have now started to introduce VAT and all of that, and they're very strict about compliance in that regard. Even Saudi Arabia and the UAE, So I think we need to get serious. The same we, the people, will ask government, we haven't done this for us. We have such a huge infrastructural deficit. We need to expect that taxes will go up. And it's not only taxes. Government is due to collect taxes, rates, dues, duties, fines, okay, and what are really levies. All of those things we should expect to see more efficiency. And our role is to ensure that government actually uses those monies for exactly what they said they want to use them for. So vigilance, eternal vigilance is still very, very key. But if you leave this country and go elsewhere, the other time I was in Ghana, we went into a restaurant, and by the time we got the bill in the restaurant in Osu in Ghana, we're seeing 17.5% VAT, 2.5% national health insurance, 2.5% education tax fund. I was shocked. But that's Ghana. They're very strict about their taxes. Nigerians, sometimes we want the best of ourselves and for our country, but nobody's ready to chip in, and that's why we're where we are today. However, there are also luxury taxes, which under Okunjo, they try to bring in, but they lost. The political will is not there because the big men don't want to charge themselves. If you say you want to take property taxes in Nigeria, the big guys who own all the houses and all the big buildings will come after you, and all of those things have died. So property taxes are there, luxury taxes are there, taxes on even excise duties are there. There's a taxes on alcohol, on cigarettes, and so on. The other time under Kemi Adeosun, they wanted to increase that the excise duties. The private sector rose against that and said never. So where is that going to come from? We have so many opportunities to increase revenue in this country, while we're also cutting revenue expenses or expenditure in some areas. For example, the appurtenances of office. Sometimes people have raised the issue of maybe the National Assembly should work part-time. We know that they are never going to pass that law, okay, because they won't hurt themselves. Everybody is in there to probably have a good life and make some money, unfortunately, and that's not what it should be. So we're actually getting to that point at which some of these issues will have to be considered very strongly too. On the expenditure end, there are many things you can cut back. Okay, I also have moved in the past that this country, we can actually have, a maintenance budget for the next 10 years and say that, look, the infrastructure we have, we want to maintain them. We want to revisit them. There are more than 30,000 abandoned projects in this country. However, every year we want to start a new one, and a lot of these things end up as white elephant projects. So we have a lot of opportunity. Our work is cut out for us in this country. We have a lot of space for growth and to reorganize ourselves. And I think we hope that at some point some of these things get done very tangibly. But we should expect that government will increase taxes at some point, not only in the areas that can pay. Okay, one of the attributes of a good taxation is, are you taxing someone who can pay? You don't tax small businesses that are struggling, not when they're just trying to come out of a recession and of all of the lockdowns and pandemics. But they know where the money is, the luxury items. I mean, we see last scenarios in this country. People go to nightclubs and spend 10 million naira in a night, in a single night, in nightclubs. So we know where the money is. Government should follow the money. And if they do, we're going to be better for it. But I would also urge that no matter what misgivings people have against government, past and present, they should understand that this country is ours, and you have to chip in as well in order to get the good things of life, like in other countries.
Well, more taxes, more development. Thank you so very much, Mr. Tope Faswa, for sharing your thoughts with us on the way to go to get more revenue for more development of our nation.
Yes, thank you very much.
Moving on, amid monumental challenges posed by climate change, particularly energy transition and related issues, the coming decade, anchored on the African Continental Free Trade Area, offers great opportunities for Africa's socio-economic transformation. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this in a message delivered at the closing of the 2021 Conference on African Insurance Practitioners, themed Rebuilding Africa's Economy and Insurance Perspective, urging African insurance practitioners to leverage opportunities in the African free trade zones. The Vice President said every smart economic grouping, whether government or business, must be thinking, planning, and strategizing for this new normal. Well, in a bid to ensure transparency and clarity for auditing within the banking system, the Central Bank of Nigeria has instructed banks and payment service providers to separate all transactions categorized as bulk payment upon transition. The Apex Bank, in a circular signed by the Director of Payment System Management Department, Musa Jimo, directed banks and PSBs to comply with the directive and all other payment system regulations. The statement stresses that this is because the central bank has noticed the inherent problems associated with the processing of bulk transfers by banks and payment service providers. Currently, originating banks and PSPs pass a single debit entry through initiating customers' account and multiple credits to beneficiaries without adequate records of the credit entries in their system, which distorts the audit trail and hampers transparency. Health, they say, is wealth. This is the story of a woman whose business is to provide quality, healthy beverages to her customers. This, she said, she gave up her white-collar job for. Let's now join Bosede Abel for details.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Mariam Testimony Akonde is a health nutritionist who gave up her profession for her passion.
We are into healthy. We like to talk about health. Health nutritionist, that's what I am. I'm into healthy foods. Actually, I used to work with Ethiopian Airlines, really, but passion won't let me be,
At the initial stage, it wasn't an easy adventure, but the doggedness in her gave her the courage to press on.
I remember someone telling me that, don't you know that people who leave their job to go after their passion don't really make money? But I'm yet to prove them wrong. I know consistency will actually prove them wrong. I started with 7 products: turmeric, cabbage flour. Really, there was a time I had sugar spike and there was no food to eat. And I felt like I'm dying, And I discovered that during a lot of research, I discovered that I could actually use food to heal myself. And I did some research and some courses. So I discovered that food can actually heal one. When I started eating right, like having my coconut swallow, having my eggplant, having all the healthy things. Sometimes I use tiger nut as my milk, plant-based milk. I discovered that my sugar was really going down, even without being on insulin. And I just dived into healthy food stuff.
Although Mariam has been in the business for 3 years, but the COVID-19 pandemic is one experience that will always ring a bell.
During that COVID, because we sell things like turmeric, what COVID did for me was it birthed new things like our teas that sells like hot cake. That's what COVID did, because eventually we had to do some research. We discovered that there are some teas that are amazing. I mean, like chamomile tea, it relaxes you, like life is beautiful. Like dopam tea, when you have high blood pressure or you are disturbed, it calms your nerves. I mean, it calms you down. Like,
Excited about seeing her dream gradually coming true, Mariam wishes she can access the federal government's loan through the CBN, as it will help boost her business. Boss said they able. Business Express.
Well, now oil prices rose for a second session on Thursday, recovering from earlier losses as a decline in U.S. Gulf of Mexico output underpinned the market. With that, we now look at prices of other commodities on the global market this Thursday. The capital market posted negative results at the end of Wednesday's trading session as investors lost 24.37 billion naira. The all-share index fell 0.12% to close at 39,204.52 basis points and market capitalization at 20.4 trillion naira. 354.06 million shares valued at 3.2 billion naira exchanged hands in 4,095 deals. The financial services sector dominated the activity chart with FBN Holdings, Access Bank and Universal Insurance PLC. And on the global scene, European stock futures slid on Thursday, tracking Asian shares lower on concerns of slowing global growth. Able has an update.
European stocks are expected to open lower on Thursday as investors in the region watch for announcement from the European Central Bank. London FTSE is in opening 38 point lower at 7,095.53. Germany's DAX 45 point lower at 15,610.28, and France's CAC 40 down 17 points at 6,668.89. Hong Kong stocks fell in Thursday trade, with shares in the rest of Asia Pacific also largely declining. The broader Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong dropped 1.97%. Shanghai Composite in mainland China hovered fractionally higher, while Nikkei in Japan dipped 0.57%. U.S. stock futures were lower in early morning trading Thursday as investors remained cautious on the remaining month of trading. Dow futures fell more than 160 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures both traded in negative territory. While in Africa, stocks are yet to post figures. Boss said they able. Business Express.
Before we go, let's see the forex market where the US dollar is holding higher. Let's see the exchange rate to the naira. That wraps this edition of Business Express. Remember to keep in touch with us. Do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Friday at 3 p.m. I am Benny Adams saying, keep thinking and doing business.
We want to talk about rights, there are obligations. I'm not saying that this government is a saint, it's very far from it. But there are things that we can do to make it better, and that's the challenge I'm throwing to you. You don't want to build this nation? I don't know where else you want to go. If I had a choice, I'll come back. When I stand outside and I hear what you have to say about this country that I know that I can die for as one, then I'm really sad because you're young. You have education, you have tools, you have a huge future ahead of you, and you're condemning yourself before you started on that journey. So please don't do that. Please don't.
Wannan labarin ma yana peji na 36.
Ita kuma babban labarin wannan jarida shine ainihin
labarin da ke gaban jarida shine ta bayyana cewa
ọkwa ji ikenga eziokwu
nwanne m nwoke
Ikechukwu Ndukwe Igbo mam
iji wee mee ka ụbọchị na-aga n'anya ya
Nation fún ti òwúrọ̀ yìí ibẹ̀ náà ti sọ pé àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ìpínlẹ̀ Benue pàṣẹ wípé
ní gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀ka ní ẹ̀ka ètò ẹ̀kọ́ ní ẹ̀ka ètò ìlera ní ẹ̀ka ètò ààbò.
Hello and welcome. It's time for another interesting package of
Everything Music.
Angelina, you dey cool in my temperature. If you call, I go come deliver.
This is Stocky Movies.
In times of old, the world was full of wonder.
No.
Stop it! Welcoming you to your weekend for today.
Arise, O compatriots. It's time to use our voice.
Beyond 6 packs.
Bills.
Pay the bills. Keep paying telephone bills. Pay my bills.
Welcome to Gallery.
Me and my parties.
London for what?
London for medicine.
Medicine for what?
Medicine for coffee.
Are you sickness?
To our illness. Welcome to Gist Zone.
All right, my name is the Eselucien Wego One. Ona nyokoko nyonyo.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.
This This is the network service of the NTA.
In September 2015, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development that includes 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, building on the principle of leaving no one behind. The new agenda emphasizes a holistic approach to achieving sustainable development for all. The 2030 Agenda has reinvigorated national development planning processes as countries work to align their national development priorities with global goals for sustainable development. While achieving the SDGs will require a global effort, individual countries are charged to make concerted efforts to raise and direct financing to where it is most needed for the actualization of the goals in a bid to eradicate poverty, reduce inequalities, and protect the environment from degradation. The Development Agenda was a successor framework to the Millennium Development Goals, which enjoyed the endorsement and commitment of world leaders between 2000 and 2015. As one of the leaders who signed up for the adoption of the global agenda, President Muhammadu Buhari repeatedly declared his unflinching commitment to the attainment of the 17 goals and 169 targets, while also providing it with institutional and financial supports. The global agenda seeks to end poverty, ensure zero hunger, promote good health and well-being, deliver access to quality education, and ensure gender equality. The agenda also seeks to provide clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, promote industry, innovation and infrastructural development, as well as help reduce inequality. Also contained in the agenda are provision of sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, intensified effort in climate action, preservation of life below water and life on land, promotion of peace, justice, and strong institution, while encouraging strategic partnership in attaining the goals. Since the commencement of the implementation of the SDGs on January 1, 2016, Nigeria and the President Muhammadu Buhari-led federal government have been taking concrete steps towards the actualization of the goals. In the thinking of President Buhari, the attainment of the goals is synonymous to giving meaningful development to the citizenry. He believes that when the government is able to deliver on the goals, the whole essence of governance would have been met.
With the adoption of the 2030 Agenda, we set for ourselves ambitious goal of seeing an economically sustainable, socially inclusive, and environmentally resilient world. For Nigeria, and indeed Africa as a whole, the achievement of the SDGs will mean ending poverty and hunger, safeguarding our ecosystem, and ensuring that our people live in peace and prosperity by the year 2030.
In apparent demonstration of our commitment, the Nigerian government established a robust institutional arrangement for the implementation of the goals, while also driving the SDGs with innovations, implementation of pro-poor and pro-development programs, undertaken in the quest to bequeath to the people a desired future in which no one is left behind. The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs was established with Princess Adejoke Orilokpe Adefulire as the coordinator of the agenda.
I am aware from official statistics that approximately 54% of Nigerians live below the poverty line as defined by World Bank. It is pertinent to state that reducing extreme poverty and hunger is one of the cardinal objectives of our administration. It is for this reason that our government acted quickly in the implementation of the SDGs by establishing the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on the SDGs in January 2016. The office is charged with the responsibility for strategic planning, horizontal and vertical intergovernmental coordination, multi-stakeholders partnership, and resource mobilization. It is also mandated to lead robust advocacy and communication for the SDGs in Nigeria.
A presidential council for the SDGs was inaugurated by the president to provide high-level policy guidance and leadership, as well as direction on the implementation, while 2 standing committees on the SDGs were established in the Senate and House of Representatives of the Parliament to enhance legislative engagements. The government also set up the Private Sector Advisory Group, the Donors Partnership Forum, and the Civil Society Strategy Group as key partners for the SDGs in a bid to strengthen the national awareness around the goals and build strong commitment towards effective collaborations with all stakeholders.
Unlike during the MDGs, where we lost about 7 to 8 years before we took off. But that was adopted, it can be explained, that was adopted, but we learned some lessons from that, and quickly we started work early as soon as the world leader adopted the SDGs. And the minute we adopted, we found out that the public sector alone cannot, if truly we want to achieve SDG, cannot achieve SDG. So we have to work together with the private sector, and that was why the first agenda of this office is to see how we mobilize the private sector and appointed them that was February 2017.
As part of efforts to prevent the drawbacks found with the implementation of the Millennium Development Goals, the government has been mobilizing hundreds of core members across the country every year as SDGs champion to take the campaign on implementation of SDGs to the grassroots in various parts of the country.
The NYC core champion were all over the country. They are champions, our advocates. So we made them our advocates so that wherever they are posted, and if there's any gap, they quickly get to us so that we can quickly intervene. And that's the essence of, and they are very helpful in doing all of that, because we need to be everywhere, and we cannot be here in Abuja to get every needs from every community. So that has been helpful in terms of sensitization, advocacy, and getting people to get to know of SDG.
Also, 13 frontline celebrities have been enlisted as SDGs ambassadors to help communicate the messages of Agenda 2030, generate momentum and citizens' commitment for the achievement of the SDGs in Nigeria, and raise awareness on all the goals with a view to enhancing actions by key players to attaining the SDGs. Beyond these, however, is the recognition by the government that the SDGs cannot be achieved with standalone programs and projects. They must be carefully mainstreamed into the policies, plans, and actual budgets of the national and sub-national government, while also ensuring that actual expenditures are aligned with such plans and budgets. The government integrated the core areas of concern to the SDGs, such as food security, agriculture, inclusive growth, industry, Infrastructural Development into the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP 2017 to 2020. Work has also commenced on SDGs needs assessment, policy and scenario analysis, as well as tracking and reporting. Indicators have been developed and the SDGs baseline survey has been finalized to address the lack of accurate and reliable data for planning and tracking performances across the 3 tiers of government. And to further back these thoughts with action, the government in 2017 commenced the process of domesticating and customizing the Integrated Sustainable Development Goals (ISDG) simulation model and was officially launched in 2019 at the sideline of the 74th session of the UN General Assembly in New York. This placed Nigeria elite list of the few countries, if not the first country in the global south to have developed a homegrown analytical framework for SDGs integration, and it is believed this will go a long way in helping to bridge the policy, planning, and budgeting gap in the quest to achieve the SDGs in Nigeria.
As a government, we have since recognized that to achieve the 2030 agenda and the SDGs, we must scientifically understand our implementation context, carefully formulate policies and programs, and judiciously apply human and financial resources. This cannot be achieved with ad hoc planning. It was our genuine desire for scientific planning and implementation of the SDGs that made Nigeria to commence the process of domestication and customization of the Integrated Sustainable Development Goals model in 2017.
Nigeria is taking a giant leap to ensuring that actual expenditures are aligned with such plans and budgets. Emphases are made on effective interagency and subnational coordination and collaboration, while providing for robust and comprehensive national statistical information system for monitoring progress on the SDGs, with the realignment of the national statistical system and signing of the data bond with the ministries, departments and agencies, as well as the sub-national government. In the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, sustaining financing, strategic policies and impact programs are major requirements. Against this backdrop, the Buhari administration has been reinforcing government and stakeholders' commitment towards financing the SDGs in Nigeria. The government has also developed a 10-year plan for the implementation of the SDGs, while efforts are being intensified to come up with a sustainable financing mechanism tagged Integrated National Financing Framework (INFF) for sustainable development. The move underscores the country's commitment to taking a holistic, data-driven and long-term approach to the development of a financing strategy for the SDGs. It was also in line with recent steps, including the development of an SDG baseline performance indicator database and the domestication of an integrated SDG ISDG tool for data analysis and modeling.
The Nigeria SDG model, the report of which we will officially launch today, will serve as a framework for robust, fact-based policy analysis, planning and implementation at all levels of government. It is expected to be used as a planning tool to complement existing ones currently in use at the national, sectorial, and sub-national levels. Going forward, we expect policymakers and planners to judiciously utilize this model to guide our efforts towards the achievement of the SDGs and other internationally agreed development goals.
The Integrated National Financing Framework (INFF) is designed to strengthen the commitment of policymakers, development practitioners, and private investors in the implementation of the SDGs. The agenda of achieving the SDGs by 2030 is broad, complex, and spread beyond the capacity of the government. Hence, the need to mobilize both public and private funds to ensure the actualization of the goals by 2030. The INFF has 4 key building blocks: assessments and diagnostics, financing strategy, monitoring and review, governance and coordination.
The general thinking of not only the SSAP herself, but also the Honorable Minister of Finance, who is the chair of the Integrated National Financing Framework Steering Committee, is to look for innovative financing mechanisms that will support the financing of the SDGs. The idea of moving away from funding the SDGs to financing the SDG is the way to go. The idea is looking for the private capital, impact investment, sukuk bond, diaspora bond, green bond. Now we're talking even about blue bond and SDG standalone bond. So these are the financing mechanisms that we are looking forward to support critical infrastructure that will enable the achievement of the SDGs in Nigeria. So what we're doing with the design and possible implementation of the Integrated National Financing Framework is precisely to achieve this, mapping out the entire financing ecosystem in the country, the public, the private sector, the philanthropy, and all that into one document that will guide, our aspiration in line with the Addis Ababa Action Agenda for Financing Development, to see how best we can support this. And therefore, the future is funding, not finance. Is financing, not funding.
Beyond the very robust institutional arrangement for implementation, Nigeria is driving the SDGs with innovations and strategic interventions. Nigeria has also put in place mechanisms for identifying and targeting the poor with pro-poor and pro-development programs undertaken in the quest to bequeath to the people a desired future in which no one is left behind. Key efforts in this area include massive investments in quality and inclusive education, healthcare and well-being, water and sanitation, as well as empowerments and skills development.
We also provide some schools infrastructures to address to prepare for the out-of-school children back in school. We work with them closely and ensure that we support the local government in ensuring that we add more classrooms. In the last 4 years or 5, we have added more than 2,000 number of classrooms to what the local government should do and the state. When we came in, we found out that the infant and maternal mortality are high. With the support of the office and intervention that we have introduced, we have also completed both 149, 120, and 100-bed hospital in about 32 states of the population. So we hope that the remaining states will be, and FCT will be taken this year or next year by the grace of God. Of course, the critical infrastructure, which is primary healthcare center. As we speak now, we have done more than 200 primary healthcare centers to support some states, maybe I think all the 36 states of the Federation, to ensure that the local rural community, riverine community gets as a health coverage and they get well treated, and that is the spirit of leaving no one behind.
In the development of a child, education has been described as an important key that can help unlock all the potentials. Education is also central to the attainment of other goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Quality education, as provided for in Goal 4 of the SDGs, is critical to the bid to break from the cycle of poverty, reduce inequalities, achieve gender equality, as well as the other global goals. For Nigeria, one of the key challenges in delivery on the education goal is the problem of out-of-school children, with an estimated number of over 10 million children roaming the streets. The task have been that of taking the children back into the classrooms by ensuring increased enrollment. One of the initiatives of the Buhari administration in this regard is the recent inauguration of the Steering Committee for Alternate School Program. The Alternate School Program has as its mandate to improve access to education for all Nigerian children, in alignment with Sustainable Development Goal (SDG 4), which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, as well as promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The Alternate School Program therefore hopes to help achieve a balance in this disproportionately lopsided state of affairs by providing an innovative and flexible approach to schooling as well as skills development. By focusing on out-of-school children, the ASP will ensure a reversal of Nigeria's abysmal statistics. Also, working to achieve the same ends, the federal government, through the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, has embarked on rehabilitation and building of new classrooms across the country. Interventions by the SDGs office have resulted in either rehabilitation or construction of over 2,600 classrooms equipped with VIP toilets, external works, educational, instructional materials and furniture, among others across the country.
We have too many people outside the school environment, out of school children. And of course, the need to create an enabling environment for those people that are in school and make provision for those that we want to bring back to school. You recall that the president inaugurated the Steering Committee on Alternate School. The essence of all of these things is to make sure that we get all the children of school age back in school. The intervention is to support the Federal Ministry of Education, support the subnational government Ministry of Education, and ensure that more of our young people that are out of school are back in school. So that is ongoing, and we are monitoring the progress, and we're happy to report that by next year we should make some significant progress. So our intervention in that direction is to ensure that, to some extent, maintain the existing classroom, build more classrooms, and provide water, solar, and make the school conducive for learning for our children. It's our little contribution to support the subnational government, aside from the conditional grant scheme, which the fund of the federal government that will give to the state government, the 50% to be matched by the state government to provide those infrastructure and to complement what we are able to do as interventions.
A key intervention in this regard was the partnership of the office with a Chinese company, NetDragon Websoft, which led to establishment of digital classrooms designed to equip pupils with ICT skills at Pilot Science Nursery and Primary School. The ICT facilities have enhanced the learning by the children, while teaching process revealed a massive impact. The intervention projects carried out on the school by the OSAP SDGs include the construction of new classrooms and the complete renovation of dilapidated blocks, upgrading the ICT unit class into a smart class while installing solar panels and inverters to constantly supply power to the ICT center, construction of a sports pavilion and playground for the children, and equipping the classes with learning materials. Sharing their experiences, the children explain how the intervention has positively impacted their learning skills. The teachers at the pilot school also narrate the situation before and after the intervention by the OSAP SDGs. Yet, the pilot science school is only one of the numerous schools that have benefited from the massive interventions by the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs. Just recently, The office completed the rehabilitation of 4 schools in Ota community of Ogun State that were established over 40 years ago, but had become dilapidated over the years. The comprehensive interventions in the schools, namely St. Michael's African Church Primary School 1 and 2, and the Ansaruddin Practicing School 1 and 2 in Ota, Ogun State, involved construction of over 45 new classrooms, renovation of old ones, construction of staff room and school library, provision of furniture and fans for classrooms and staff rooms, provision of potable water, new toilets, and a sports pavilion. The interventions, which have resulted in a total turnaround of the schools, are confirmed by the heads, teachers, and pupils of the schools, have elicited commendations for the federal government and the OSAP SCGs for bringing life back to the schools. Speaking recently to Agenda 2030, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SCGs, Princess Orelope Adefolire, said the interventions were part of the efforts of the Buhari's administration to create an enabling environment and support efforts of the sub-national governments to increase enrollment and bring children who are out of school back to the classrooms.
Hello and welcome. It's time for another interesting package of
Everything Music.
Angelina, you dey cool in my temperature. If you call, I go come deliver.
This is Talking Movies.
In times of old, the world was full of wonder.
No!
Stop it! Welcoming you to your weekend for today.
Arise, O compatriots. It's time to use our voice.
Beyond 6 packs.
Bills.
Pay the bills. Keep paying telephone bills. Pay my bills.
Welcome to Gallery.
Me and my paddies. London for what?
London for medicine.
Medicine for what?
Medicine for coffee.
Are you sickness?
To our illness. Welcome to Gist Zone.
All right, my name is the Eselucien Wego One. Ona nyokoko nyonyo.
Stop this senseless killing. All we need is one Nigeria.
I think we have come to the threshold of time when we need to seek for peace.
We need
peace in this country. We need peace in Nigeria.
And together, we can pull through.
No matter where you come from.
Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba.
We cannot achieve a better Nigeria by fighting.
Let us stand together in brotherhood and solidarity and strive for peace. And not because of their tribal or their religion or whatsoever background.
Let us support the government of the day to embrace peace in our nation.
Your Nigeria, our Nigeria, my Nigeria.
This message is brought to you by the Ambassador of Voice for Change Initiative, supported by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and the Federal Capital Territory.
We want to talk about rights, there are obligations. I'm not saying that this government is a saint, it's very far from it. But there are things that we can do to make it better, and that's the challenge I'm throwing to you. You don't want to build this nation? I don't know where else you want to go. If I had a choice, I'll come back. When I stand outside and I hear what you have to say about this country that I know that I can die for as one, then I'm really sad because you're young. You have education, you have tools, you have a huge future ahead of you, and you're condemning yourself before you started on that journey. So please don't do that. Please don't.
is the network service of the NTA.
Blood transfusion is an indispensable component of healthcare. It contributes to saving millions of lives each year in both routine and emergency situations, permits increasingly complex medical and surgical interventions, and dramatically improves the life expectancy and quality of life of patients with a variety of acute and chronic conditions. Patients who require transfusion as part of their clinical management have the right to expect that sufficient blood will be available to meet their needs and to receive the safest blood possible. However, many patients still die or suffer unnecessarily because they do not have access to safe blood transfusion. The timely availability of safe blood and blood products is essential in all health facilities where blood transfusion is performed. But in many developing countries, there is a widespread shortfall between blood requirements and blood supplies. How do we change the narrative in this part of the world? That's our focus on this week's episode of Health Options. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, is a life-saving technique that is useful in many emergencies such as a heart attack or near drowning in which someone's breathing or heartbeat has stopped. You will get to learn how to perform CPR if you join us on our complimentary segment. This is Health Options, and I thank you for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. Let's take a look at this vox pop on Nigerians and voluntary blood donation culture put together by Salwa Ibrahim Khalil.
Personally, I'm against donating for people I do not know.
No, I never donate blood for my life.
Why?
I don't want to lose my blood because I'm not getting money to replace it back.
Maybe subsequently I might donate, but for now, I don't think I have enough blood for that.
They say that the more you donate, the more fresh one comes in. Maybe with time I will get to try that, but I've not given it a thought for.
When I donate, the following day I sleep like a baby and I wake up like a baby. It's always good for me to do. And my inspiration is putting smile on somebody's face.
There's a need to sensitize the people on the need to voluntarily go out there and offer to donate this blood so that it is kept there safe for when the need arises.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Health Options, and we are taking a look at safe blood transfusion and sufficiency. And joining me for the discussion is the National Coordinator, National Blood Transfusion Service, Dr. Omale Joseph Amedu, MNI. Glad to have you join us on Health Options, Dr. Amedu.
Thank you, Rabi.
Blood, one critical element for human survival. Let's start, from the basics now. How important is safe blood?
Thank you very much. Like I have said, blood is life, and everything about every human being depends on blood. We require blood to transport oxygen, which we breathe in, to help the system in its processes. We also need blood to transport carbon dioxide from the inside outside, which is a byproduct of metabolism. The entire body system and all the major organs of the body depends really on oxygen to survive. So blood is life. and therefore will require a very safe, high-quality blood to get the system going.
Can you enumerate some of those emergencies that require blood transfusion?
Thank you very much. Blood is required in virtually all aspects of emergencies, but specifically, let's look at many of our women who deliver in hospitals and bled a lot. Without blood, they can't survive. So we require them for maternal survival. We also require them for sickle cell disease, anemia, which is also very common in this part of the world. We require blood for road traffic accidents where people bled to death from various parts of their bodies. We require blood in cancer treatment. We require blood in these days of insurgencies, herdsmen, farmers clashes, communal clashes, political clashes that get to injury of those that participate. So blood is actually required. And even in routine surgeries, for obstetricians, when they go for CS, you have to get blood in place for them to do surgery. And these are all sort of areas that blood is needed. But again, we have a very big gap in terms of blood requirement in Nigeria today.
Wow, how big is the gap?
Well, it's really very big because Nigeria requires a minimum of 2 million units of blood per annum. But right now, what we have is just under 500 units in a year. So the gap is really very much. And the reason being that people have a series of feelings towards donating blood. And donating blood by way of non-remuneration or free donation is actually the best form of blood that we look for. Again, if you get to many of our health facilities, you see people have replacement donation. When people's relations are in need of blood, that's when they go to the hospital to donate blood, which is not good enough. Of course, nobody prepares for emergencies. But because the emergency comes at each point in time, there's a need for every government, every organization to get ready to handle emergencies as they come. And that's why National Blood Transfusion Service is in place to ensure that Nigerian government has put in place this structure, this agency, to make sure that we regulate, we coordinate, and we ensure the provision of adequate, safe quality blood for Nigerians at any point in time. And when that is done, if you have a relation who is in the hospital, you don't have to worry about getting blood for the patient because the blood is already made available by Nigerians who donate blood freely.
Okay, let's focus our attention more on the voluntary blood donors now. Very, very essential. Who should donate blood?
Anybody who is in good health between age 18 and 65 should donate blood. Any woman who is not putting her period, or who is not breastfeeding, or who is not having any medical condition can donate. And the women donate 3 times in a year, and men donate 4 times in a year on 3 monthly basis.
For those who come forward, to donate, and those who are averse to it, what are some of the reasons you've been able to, because not everybody is too forthcoming with that?
I think some people don't really understand why they should donate. They don't feel that it's important for them to donate just for no reason. And some believe that in their tradition, they don't donate blood to people, and that blood is so sacred that they don't donate blood. So I may feel that if they donate blood, they will become incompetent probably in terms of their family life, in terms of their social life. So people have all sorts of myths and misunderstandings.
This is the network service of the NTA. We now join our outside broadcast crew for a live telecast. Please stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, behold Mr. President, and we commend our governor, His Excellency. The national anthem, please.
We welcome Nigerians to Owerri, the Imo State capital, where the NTA, Africa's largest television network, is bringing you the live coverage of the visit of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, who is on a working visit to Imo State. He actually arrived the state at exactly 9:30 a.m., where he was received by the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, and other state government officials, as well as stakeholders from the southeast region. From there, he has already moved to various locations to inaugurate some projects. He actually started from the Naze-Obinze Link Road, the road that leads from Imo State to Abia State and other southeast states, which had been a death trap for years. Already the president has inaugurated that road. He has also inaugurated the flood control project executed by Governor Hope Uzodinma in Imo State, and where he presently is the Egbada bypass, the road that also connects Imo State to Anambra and other southeast states. He is here being received by major stakeholders in Imo State. The crowd, as you can see here, is massive. Severe effort is being put in place in line with the COVID-19 protocol. But you can see it's a difficult task getting people, to give space for that. The president is here finally in Imo State, and I must say, from what we see on ground, the people are very, very excited to have him in Imo State. My name is Miriam Vincent Oku on commentaries. I have a full complement of the OB crew who are here to ensure that Nigerians are well updated on happenings here in Imo State. Welcome.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. Your Excellency, my brother governor, the governor of Abuja State, Engineer Dave Umahi, the Deputy Governor of Imo State, the Deputy Governor of Abia, SSG Enugu State. Your Excellency, distinguished senators and members of the House of Assembly, honorable ministers, distinguished personalities here today, let me begin by welcoming Mr. President to Imo State. We say that our people are excited having Mr. President in our midst today, despite all the challenges. Mr. President, as we say in Igbo land, you can only tell a blind man that there is no oil in the soup, but you cannot tell him that there is no salt, because he will surely observe that. I'm sure that Mr. President now knows that the Imo people profoundly love him, just as they sincerely appreciate him. In March this year, we commenced the harvest of commissioning of projects built by my administration. It is heartwarming to recall that Mr. President was the first to commission 2 strategic roads virtually. Today, Mr. President is here in flesh and blood to commission more and equally important roads. We give God the glory. Your Excellency, sir, we know you to be a serious-minded leader who does not suffer irrelevances or frivolities. When we requested you to graciously come to Imo State to commission some strategic projects, we mean just that. These projects are not just strategic socially, but economically too. When I assumed office as governor of Imo State last year, I undertook a holistic study of the needs of our people. I found out to my horror that the infrastructure base of the state had totally collapsed. Almost all the road network was broken. Owerri, the state capital, was worst hit. Flood had sacked several parts of the city, while in some areas, property owners had surrendered their property to flood, especially within the Tiger and Chukwumawanha Road axis, where the base of the current balloon-driven tunnel is located. Mr. President, the state of Naze Ihiagwa Nekede Obinze Link Road was pathetic, to say the least. The road was taken over by gullies, not potholes. It was nightmarish to the road users. And this is a strategic road that leads to the two federal institutions of higher learning in Imo State, namely the Federal University of Technology in Ihiagwa and the Federal Polytechnic Nekede. The lives of students and staff of these institutions, as well as residents, were endangered because the poor state of the road turned it into a heaven for armed robbers. I recall vividly that on the day I flagged off the construction of this road, a woman broke down in tears of joy because the residents had lost all hopes of seeing the road reconstructed after over 15 years of abandonment. Overwhelmed, she cried out and told me that if it is the only road that my government will build in the entire administration, that the God she worships will still bless me. The feeling was same for all those who use the road. To the glory of God, Your Excellency has just commissioned the first phase of this all-important road. The second phase, which will be commissioned before the end of this year, will link the road to the Obinze end at the Port Harcourt Expressway. But I'm glad to report to Mr. President that it is not and will not be the only road my administration has done. We've done 46 solid roads, including the Muhammad Buhari Avenue, which houses the Federal Secretariat. We are still doing more because we believe that with the right infrastructure, our economic development will be hastened and life will be much better for our people. That's exactly what informed our decision to permanently solve the perennial flooding of the capital city, Owerri. The balloon-driven tunnel at the base of the Tiger Road, which we have just commissioned today, was built to check the flooding in the area and recover property swallowed by flood in the last 20 years. The tunnel is 2.45 kilometers in length, 1.8 meters in diameter, and between 0.9 and 11.5 meters in depth, with 94 manholes. It is taking flood water from the Tiger, Chukwumawanha Street, Iheshuwa, Aladimma, Relief Market Roads, and part of Trans-Ebu to Otamiri River. We are planning another one from Akwakuma, Ebada, to Avadikoku axis of the city. The flood from this second tunnel shall be discharged at Warrior River. When this second phase is completed in the next couple of months, we are confident that Owerri will be totally flood-free.
Carry go, President, carry go. Carry go, President, carry go.
Mr. President, as we are checking flooding, we are also making the movement of people and goods easier in Owerri. Hence the construction of the Ebada bypass road, which takes traffic away from the traffic city. Those who are moving from Onitsha to to Olu and the Idata axis of the state and vice versa have no need to enter Owerri capital city with this bypass. That is also what the Chukwumawaha Road is doing for those coming from Umuahia and heading to Mbitolu and the Ikedru axis of the state. Just as we are making motorists happy, we also reckon that the seat of government requires an urgent facelift. Your Excellencies, sir, it will interest you to know that the Executive Council Chamber of Imo State Government, which we met, is outdated, outmoded, rickety chamber built over 40 years ago, devoid of modern communication facilities and gadgets for ease of executive policy formulations and decisions. I'm delighted to inform you, Your Excellency, sir, that we have put that sordid history behind us by constructing an ultra-modern executive council chambers of world-class standards. That is one of the projects Your Excellency will commission shortly. I wish to use this, your visit, Your Excellency, to publicly express the heartfelt gratitude of the government of Imo State and the people of Imo State to you for the swift manner you brought to the politically contrived security breaches in the state to an end. I have also personally commended all your commanders who carried out your order in containing the situation. We have also reached out to the families of security personnel who lost their lives in the line of duty. Equally, we have reached out to the families of innocent citizens who were caught at the crossfire. Mr. President, our commitment to the peace and unity of Nigeria is irrevocable. Through our inclusive government, we have accommodated every Nigerian resident in Imo State. Some have been appointed directly into my cabinet. Others are making inputs into governance, either directly or indirectly. Our aim is to build a mini Nigeria in Imo State, where everyone will have a sense of not only belonging, but unfettered accommodation. I am proud to emphasize that although this is a government brought about by APC, our great party, it is proudly a government of all in Imo State and all residents in Imo State, whether you are a citizen or not a citizen. We remain sincere in our endeavors to satisfy the yearnings of our people within available resources. We thank Mr. President for granting us listening ears over our myriad challenges. Mr. President, we shall never be tired of knocking at your door, sir. I am personally overwhelmed by your esteemed presence. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the government and people of Imo State for believing in Imo State and her leadership. We want to thank Mr. President, and we say thank you, and welcome, Mr. President.
Agricultural president, Imo State elected president. Thank you. Friendly president, you are welcome to Imo State. Buhari na helele. Thank you. Papa Bialimo. Oh yo yo.
Thank you very much. A round of applause one more time for the executive governor of Imo State, the man who came to rekindle the hope of the Imolites and has lived up to that expectation and has actually surpassed it. Mr. President, it also might interest you to note that this man, distinguished Senator Hope Uzodinma, is the man who is bridging the gap. He's a bridge builder, and with his tenacity and the way he's moving, a bulldozer that he is, very soon, the way we are going, the entire Southeast Nigeria will soon become of the APC stock because of his leadership qualities. I'd like us to applaud Onwa one more time. It is my honor and privilege at this point in time, and I consider it very expedient to also invite the #1 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a man with zero tolerance for corruption, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to at this point in time make his remarks. Your Excellency, Mr. President, sir.
Imo baya baba, unu baya baba, President Oyama, unu baya baba, unu baya papa, Papa Ndimo States, Papa Ndimo States, Papa Nigeria, eyes, aha. Baba Mutum.
Accepted this invitation to come to see what the governor wanted me to see. And I have seen enough that testifies his integrity in making sure that he's working very hard to make sure that you get the structure necessary for you to build the oven. I'm very impressed with what he has done because I have gone through the same problem at the center to make sure that infrastructure is what will enable the people to mind their own businesses. If there are no roads, if there is no security, what can people do? Absolutely nothing. I am very pleased that by some fabulous coincidence, my idea and that of your governor coincided. I am very pleased with what I have seen, and I assure you that at the center, I will try to encourage Imo State within the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I thank you very much for being lucky to have the break in the weather for us to go around and see what the governor has done for the state. I thank you very much. And God bless you all.
His Excellency is moving here now to unveil the, first of all, to commission this road, the Amakohia Egbeda Bypass Road, now known as Iwanyango Way. Your Excellency, Mr. President, sir. He reads, unveils the plaque commemorating the commissioning of this road, and then he'll also read what is here. Your Excellency,
President Muhammadu Action President Emashepu Yakam.
Way commissioned by me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. National anthem, please.
bounding freedom is our
Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
We just saw the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria inaugurate the Abuja bypass. And from here, he's moving straight to the new Exco chambers inside the Imo State Government House, where he will also be inaugurating the new Exco chambers. And with that, we've come to the close of the live transmission of the visit of Mr. President to Imo State, but that's not to say he has completed his assignments in the state. He has other couple of activities to be carrying out before he leaves Imo back to Abuja. We thank you so very much for staying tuned to the NTA, Africa's largest television network. On behalf of everyone here that made this possible, we thank you for watching.
This is the network service of the NTA.
It may interest you to know that creating a gorgeous cake has gone beyond the use of rose molds, object cutout, edible papers, and lots more. In the contemporary cake world, artistic cake makers explore possibilities of paintings on cake using edible colors, brushstrokes, and other accessories. With more patience and creativity, you can achieve impressive paintings of flowers, images, or characters on fondant or buttercream cake to wow your client. You're welcome to Baker's World on the network service of the NTA. I am Funke Oyele. It's good to know you're watching.
Today on the show, if you intend to craft structures, models, or ornaments on any cake, you need to know how to make this fast-drying sugar paste called pastillage. We will be showing you how to make a workable pastillage. We will also be showing you how to create and paint a simple castle-themed cake. Coco Magiwa Job is an engineer turned cake artist. She is our guest on this episode. You will also get to know more about our guest in our conversation segment. Our focus on Baker's Gist today is buttercream cake painting tips. Now, if you are a fan of cake painting, this particular episode is a must-watch for you because you'll be learning a whole lot. We will be back in a moment.
Koko Magiwa Job is a guest on the show today. She is an indigene of Akwa Ibom State. Koko Magiwa Job was born in Kaduna on 6th of September. She was at Air Force Girls Military School, Jos, from 1997 to 2003. Koko Job is a graduate of agricultural engineering from the Federal University of Technology, Yola, in 2010. She obtained a master's degree in agricultural and bioresources engineering at Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, in 2017. Aside being cake maker, Koko has authored 3 ebooks to provide unique solutions to some problems in the industry. Join us as we chat with this innovative, patient, and dedicated cake artist, Koko Magiwa Job.
The creative director of Kokomila Cakery, Koko Magiwa Job. You're welcome to Baker's World. Thank you very much. You studied engineering in school. How did you go from engineering to becoming a professional cake maker?
I would say it all started from when I had to go for my service year, and I had a colleague who was actually a baker, and she was actually baking cakes for some of her friends and all that, and I got like enticed and I was like, oh wow, I'd like to know what you're doing, and she just showed me how to do it. While seeking for a job, I just found myself practicing baking and all that, and with time I just discovered that I had that interest in it, and as such I just decided to go train with a professional, and that's how I started my baking business.
How would you say that your background in engineering has helped you, especially when it comes to creating a cake that is structure-based, especially today where you're going to be making a cake with a castle on it?
Yes, my background in engineering actually is a plus in this because back then in school I did a lot of engineering drawings. I got to some machines and structure, and aside that, right from childhood, I had always had that flair and love for art, so I always found myself drawing and all that.
Let's talk about the cake you're making for us today. You're doing a lot of paintings on it, and you're going to build a castle on top of the cake. What's the process going to be like? How would you go about achieving that?
Okay, actually the cake I'll be working with today is actually going to be a castle themed cake, in the sense that it's going to have a creation of a mini castle in an environment that is quite green and cool, with nature and everything. So the castle itself will be made with a paste called pastelage, and that pastelage is actually a paste used for mostly structural work because of how hardened it gets when you use it to carry out structural work like that you'll be seeing us for the castle. And the painting is going to be done using edible paint on the cake, and you're going to be seeing lots of effects like the ocean view, the green grasses, and I'm also going to be showing how the regular cereal at home can be used to create some kind of wonderful bushes and tree effects on the cake.
For some of the problems that you've encountered, while doing this business, how do you prefer solution to some of the business that you've encountered while doing business?
Having the engineering background, I have this love for values, numbers and calculations and all that. So I was able to discover that there was this challenge of costing and pricing. After going into deep research, I was able to now design a costing and pricing worksheet that can be used by any baker anywhere across the world. It's actually been designed with simplicity at heart. Most softwares that are costing and pricing softwares available are usually very, very expensive. Most of them are subscription based, you have to pay monthly and all that. But this is something that is a one-time thing. You have it for life, keep it, and you can use it for as long as possible.
Where do you see yourself in this business in the next 10 years?
In 10 years, I would love to have my business becoming a household name and known for offering quality services in terms of even our bespoke cake designs. I also look forward to owning a cake and confectionery school where it can be focused on training young ones, these young ones that had that interest in learning cake, the art of cake and bake decoration. And I'm also talking about having a virtual environment, like an online school whereby people all over the world can come in to learn things about cake, cake art, the business of running a cake business and all that.
Thank you very much. It's really been fun having this conversation with you.
Thank you very much.
And that was our conversation with the creative director of Kokomina Cakery, Kokomagiwa Joke. Next on the lineup for you is Baker's Gist. See you after this time out.
Cake painting is fast becoming a trend amongst artistic bakers. It might interest you to know that you can unpaint your amazing designs on either your buttercream or fondant cakes. Cake painting is a relaxing way of expressing your concepts on your cakes that any art-inclined person can appreciate. This cake decorating techniques requires much patience, time, and creativity to achieve a great job. Our focus on Baker's Gist today is on buttercream cake painting tips. Buttercream cakes are fragile and more delicate to handle when it comes to painting. But here are some amazing tips that could help you achieve a fantastic painting on these cakes. Bake your cake and allow it to cool. Prepare a Swiss meringue buttercream as it's easier to paint on. Cover the cake with buttercream icing and put it in the refrigerator to chill. Ensure you have necessary tools such as palette knives, gel food coloring, brushes, toothpicks, or a skewer. Sketch out your designs, mix colors, and start to paint. Paint from back to front, starting with the background. If things are getting too soft, put the cake back in the refrigerator and chill until firm. Now, painting on buttercream is not exactly like normal painting, but it's not hard to do if you stick to the right techniques.
Pastillage is a sugar paste icing that becomes extremely strong when it dries up. This is what we will use to make the element we need to construct our castle cake. On this segment today, our cake is already baked, and our cake artist Kokoma Gira Job and our assistant will be showing us how to prepare a workable pastillage. Let's hand over to our baker now. Don't go anywhere.
So today I'm going to be showing you how to make pastillage. For that we'll be needing icing sugar, water, CMC and vegetable shortening. So first of all, we're going to measure out our icing sugar on our electronic scale. It is expected that you precede the icing sugar, because if you don't do that, you could end up having lumps, and that is not going to be very nice for the recipe. So the next thing I'm going to be adding is CMC, and I'm going to be adding about 1.5 tablespoons of CMC. It is important that you level up the tablespoon of the CMC. It shouldn't be heaped up. So I'm going to first mix up this with my hands. The next thing is I'll now have to measure out 1/4 cup of room temperature water. I'm going to turn this in. So I'm going to first mix up this with my hands. At this point, I will have to turn this onto my work surface and continue the kneading process. Our pastillage is actually ready now. I'm rolling this into a ball because once you're done kneading your pastillage, the next thing that you have to do is you have to wrap it up with a cling film. Now, you can't use this immediately. You will need to allow this to rest for a couple of hours, for a minimum of 3 hours before usage. Today we're going to be making a castle themed cake, and for that we'll be needing 2 sets of cakes. One is a 6 by 7 inches height square cake, which I have here. Cakes are going to be used to pull out a very wonderful castle themed cake design. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to fill up my 6 inches square cake. The size 12 cake was carved out, as you can see, in steps. So this is buttercream that I'm going to be using to sandwich each layer of cake you see here. I have my cakes all stacked up. The next thing I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to crumb coat this cake. Now I'm going to be using my plastic scraper to scrape up the size of this cake so as to get an even surface of the varied sizes. After baking the 12 inches square cake, I used a serrated knife to carve out these steps that you're seeing. So now I am going to quickly crumb coat this cake now. So I am done crumb coating the 12 inches square cake. This is a ready-made fondant, and before you can actually start working with this, it's very important that you knead before you roll out or start any form of work. So my assistant here is going to knead this fondant for So now I'm going to take the measurement of the rolled out fondant to determine the length. Okay, so this is about 25 inches long. So I'm going to cut both edges to get a straight edge and recheck the measurement. So we have a height of 7 inches. And now I'm going to roll these up around a 7-inch cake. to head on now to roll out the fondant and cover the 12 inches cake. I'm cutting off the excess. I'm going to dry this thing. Real icing helps to hold the cakes together and place on it. Now I'm going to ensure that the cake is centered well on the cake. So the next thing now is our pastelage that we kept aside is set. So I'm just going to be showing you how we're going to be making little pieces of our castle, a mini castle that is going to be placed on this cake. So I'm going to cut out a piece of the pastelage now and roll out. So I'm done rolling this out. So now I'm going to cut out. So what we need to do is I'm going to show you an example for the top story. So I'm going to cut this into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, I'm going to cut out into individual pieces. So I'm going to now be painting up this cake to have a kind of wonderful setting of nature and all water effects, where we have our castle placed on top by the time our castle is all ready. A part of it is going to have green and a part is going to have the river effect. So I'm going to start with that of the green first. So there's going to be a tree here, so I need to achieve that using colored fondant too. I have this fondant very, very dark. To adhere this to the tree, it's important that you use royal icing, not water, not edible glue. Royal icing because it holds it better and it tends to dry faster. So I'm done applying the shrub. So the next thing is I'm going to attach a touch of color to represent flowers. The next thing is I'm going to be using a different shade now, which is the brown color, because I want to take more like a cut going up here. I'm going to apply is these rocks. We actually made of past some real rice. I'm going to center it. So this is our castle themed cake.